Hello my scholars, you are welcome to my school YouTube channel and my name is Frank. In today's video, we shall be tackling JAMB CBT Mathematics past question for the year 2005. So relax, do not go anywhere, and we'll be right back. You are welcome back to my school YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be solving question 26 to 50. So let's begin with question 26. A chord of a circle subtends an angle of 60 degrees at the length of a circle of radius 14 centimeters. Find the length of the chord. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So there's a formula that we normally use in calculating the length of a chord. Okay, so length of a chord. So the formula is given as true arrow then sine theta all over 2. Okay, so where arrow here stands for the radius of the circle. Okay, so here we are told to take arrow, which is radius, to be equals to 14 centimeters and theta to be equals to 60 degrees. So we just substitute these values into this formula. So here we'll be having 2 times 14, then sine 60 degrees divided by 2. So this becomes 2 times 14, then sine 30, okay, because this 2 is going to divide this 60 to give us 30. Okay, but remember that sine 30 degrees is equals to 1 over 2, okay, which is the same thing as 0.5. Okay, so in place of sine 30, we are going to replace it with 1 over 2. So that we'll be having 28, which is 2 times 14 is 28, then times 1 over 2. Okay, so 2 here is 1 and 2 here is going to give us 14. Okay, so the length of the chord is equals to 14 centimeters. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 14 centimeters. Question 27. If sine theta is equals to minus 1 over 2 for 0 is less than theta is less than 360 degrees, the value of theta is... So let's move over to the boards to provide answers to this question. So remember, here we are told that sine theta is equals to 1 over 2 minus 1 over 2, okay? And remember, 1 over 2 is the same thing as 30 degrees. So that means we're actually giving sine theta to be equals to minus 30 degrees. So this minus here is simply telling us that this angle 30 is not in the first quadrant, it's not in the second quadrant, but in the third and fourth quadrant. Now, remember your quadrant. So here is the first quadrant, and here is the second quadrant, and here is the third, then here is the fourth. So here, tan, sine, and cos are all positive. Okay, why here is only sine that is positive. Okay, why cos and tan are all negative. Why here is only tan that is positive, why sine is negative. So sine is here and sine is also negative here. Okay, but on the fourth quadrant it's only cos that is positive, why tan and sine are all negative. So this minus and 30 simply means that, or simply indicates that this angle is actually in the third quadrant and also in the fourth quadrant. Okay, so to get the angle, in this case it will now be, theta will now be equals to 180 plus 30, and that will be equals to 210. You know, basically you are moving from here. So if you move from here to here, it's equals to 180, then plus that 30, that will give us 210. Okay, so if you move from here to here, so in this case, you know that from here, from this point here, okay, to here is equals to 360, right? So in that 360, we minus 30 from inside. Okay, so that will be equals to 330 degrees. Okay, so the value of theta is 210 and 330 degrees. Okay, so if you use your calculator to check out the sine 210 and sine 330, it will be equals to sine minus 30 degrees. Okay, so let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, 210 degrees and 330 degrees. Question 28. if y is equals to bracket open 1 minus 2x bracket close raised to power 3, find the value of the y ds at s is equals to minus 1. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So this is a simple question on differentiation. Okay, so we can differentiate this using the product rule. Okay, but we are not going to do that. So we are just going to differentiate straight. So for us to find the y, the x of this, what we simply do is, first of all, we keep this 3. So we are going to keep this 3. Then times, we differentiate what we have inside. Okay, so if we differentiate minus 2s, that is going to give us minus 2. Then we repeat everything here, which is 1 minus 2x. Then we subtract 1 from this power. Okay, so if we subtract 1 for 3, that will be equals to 2. So if we multiply this now, we'll be having it to be minus 6. Then bracket upon 1 minus 2x, bracket close, raised to power 2. But we are asked to take x to be equals to minus 1. So this s, we are going to replace it with minus 1. So here we'll be having minus 6, bracket upon 1 minus 2, bracket minus 1, then bracket close, raised to power 2. Okay, so remember that minus is going to be plus. So we'll be having minus 6, bracket 1 plus 2, raised to power 2. So here we'll be having minus 6, then 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 raised to power 2 is 9. So we are actually having times 9 here. Okay, 1 plus 2 is 3, then 3 raised to power 2 is 9. So if we multiply minus 6 by 9, we'll be having minus 54. So let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option D, minus 54. Question 29. Find the derivative of y is equals to sine, bracket open, 2s cubed plus 3s minus 4, bracket close. So derivative is another word for differentiation. So basically they're asking us to differentiate sine, then bracket open, 2s cubed plus 3s minus 4. Okay, in brackets. So let's move over to the board to simply do that. So we are not going to solve direct, but here we are going to be applying the product rule. Okay, so in this case we are going to say let u be equals to everything we have inside the bracket, okay, which is 2s cubed plus 3x minus 4, bracket close, right? So that y now becomes sine u, since everything in the bracket here has been replaced with u. Then we now differentiate y with respect to u. So the y du in this case will now be equals to, when we differentiate sine, we'll be having cos. So here we'll be having cos u, okay, not minus cos. So take note of that. It is when you integrate sine, that's when you'll be having minus cos. Okay, so now the next step is for us to differentiate u with respect to x. So du ds will now be equals to, so let's differentiate. So to differentiate this, we'll be having, we use this 3 to multiply 2. That will give us 6. Then we still repeat our x. Then this power of x, we subtract 1 from it. That will give us 2. So here we'll be having 2. Then plus, so if we differentiate 3s, of course the power of s is 1. So we use 1 to multiply 3. That will give us 3. Then that 1, we subtract 1 from inside. So that will give us 0. And take note, anything raised to power 0 is 1. So that will just be having 3 here. Okay, so for us to get our dy dx, we will just multiply dy du by du dx. So let's combine the values. So for our dy du, we actually have cos u. So let's put it cos, okay, u. But remember that our u is equals to everything we have inside this bracket. So let's just replace it, 2x raised to power 3 plus 3x minus 4, okay, in bracket. Now our du ds is equals to 6s squared plus 3. So let's bring it here, or we can even put it behind. So here we'll be having 6s squared then plus 3. So let's still put it in bracket. Okay, so this is the answer to this question. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C. Question 30. The radius arrow of a circular disc is increasing at the rate of 0.5 centimeter per second. At what rate is the area of the disc increasing when its radius is 6 centimeters? So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So basically we are looking for the A, the T, but we are given the arrow and the t, right? So in order for us to be able to get the answer to the a dt, we must first of all get the a the arrow, okay? So the a the arrow, right? That is the area of the circular disc. But remember, the area of a circle is pi arrow square, okay? Meaning that we are going to be differentiating the area with respect to the radius. So if we differentiate, we'll be having 2 pi arrow. Basically, 2 with times 2, we multiply the coefficient of pi arrow square, which is 1. So that will give us this 2. Okay, then we write our pi. Then this our raised to power 2 is just subtract 1 from each side. So if we subtract 1 from each side, that will give us 1, so that the power of arrow now becomes 1. So this is actually the answer of to the a the arrow. Okay, so in order for us to get our the a the t, we just multiply these two. Okay, we just multiply these two. So let's bring our the a. So this will be equals to the a the arrow, then times the arrow dt. So let's fill in the values. So remember, our the arrow is equals to 2 pi arrow, then times, or let's use dots, then the arrow dt is 0.5. okay, so here we are asked to take arrow to be equals to 6. So we'll be having 2 pi times 6, then times, okay, remember 0.5 is the same thing, or is equal to 1 over 2. So let's use 1 over 2 here, so that we can be able to divide easily. So this, we cancel out this, right? So that at the end of the day, we'll have 6 pi, okay, left. Of course, we are looking for the arrow dt. So in this case, it's going to be 6 pi centimeter square, then per second. Okay, so let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, 6 pi centimeter square per second. Question 31. The maximum value of the function fs is equals to 2 plus x minus s squared is, okay, so if you look at this function very well, this is a quadratic expression. Okay, and for a quadratic expression, you are going to, the graph is going to be maximum when the coefficient of s is less than 0. Okay, so here if you check very well, the coefficient of s squared, the coefficient of s squared here is less than 0. It's actually minus 1. So in that case, the graph is going to have a maximum value. So let's move over to the board to actually get the maximum value. So basically, what we'll simply do here is just for us to get the value of s. So once we get the value of s, then we substitute into this quadratic expression to get the maximum value of the function fx. Okay, so to do that, it's just for us to differentiate. So in this case, we'll be differentiating with respect, we'll be differentiating this with respect to x. Okay, so let us say let's fx, okay, be equals to y. That means y is equals to everything we have here. So if we differentiate dy dx, then we'll be having, of course, if we differentiate 2, okay, it's going to be 0 because it's a constant, it's going to be 0. If we differentiate x, we are going to be having 1. Then if we differentiate minus s squared, we are going to be having minus 2x, okay? And this whole thing will equate it to 0 in order for us to be able to get the value of x. So we move this minus 2x to the other side of the equation, or we move the 1 to the other side of the equation, so that we'll be having minus 2s to be equals to minus 1. So minus, we cancel out minus, so that s is now equals to 1 over 2. Okay, so in order for us to get the value of s from here, we just have to divide both sides by the coefficient of s, which is 2. So that is how this 1 over 2 came about. So this 1 over 2, which is the value of s, we now substitute it into the original function, which is fx is equals to 2 plus x minus s squared. So anywhere we see s, we are going to replace it with 1 over 2. So here we'll be having 2 plus 1 over 2, then minus, of course, our s here is squared. So if we square half, we are going to be having 1 over 4. Okay, so this is also over 1. Okay, so the SCM, we just look for the SCM here, which is going to be 4. Okay, so 1 into 4 is going to give us 4. Then 4 times 2 is 8, so we'll have 8 here. Then plus, then 2 into 4 is 2. Then 2 times 1 is 2. Then minus, which is this minus sign. Then 4 into 4 again is going to give us 1. then 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, so here we'll be having 10 minus 1, and that will be equals to 9. Okay, for the numerator. So here we are now having 9 all over 4. So the maximum value of the function is 9 all over 4. So let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A, 9 over 4. Question 32. Find the area of the figure bounded by the given pair of curves. Y is equals to s squared minus s plus 3, and y is equals to 3. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So first thing first, first of all here is just for us to find the s-intercept, or the point of interception for s. So in order for us to do that, we have to equate the first curve to the second curve. So in this case, we'll be having s squared minus x plus 3 to be equals to 3. Okay, so we just move this 3 to the other side, so that we'll be having s squared minus s is equals to 0, because 3 minus 3 is going to give us 0. So here we factor out s, so that we'll be having x then minus 1 to be equals to 0. So this s is equals to 0, and what we have here is also equals to 0. So the first s will be equals to 0, while the second s will be equals to 1, because I'll just move this one to the other side of the equation, and that will make it positive to give us 1. So this becomes our limit. Okay, so in order for us to calculate to find the area of the figure, of course the area of the figure is given as a is equals to then the integral of y dx. Of course our s stands for the limit. Why? Because we are integrating with respect to s, so our limits are 1 and 0. Okay, but remember, this our y here stand for the difference between the two curves. Okay, this y here stand for the difference between the two curves. So let's find the difference between the two curves. So this is the second curve, and this is the first curve. So we subtract the first curve from the second curve. So that will be 3 minus, then in brackets, s squared minus x plus 3. Okay, so if we subtract, we'll be having so 3 will be subtracted from 3. If we open this bracket, 3 will be subtracted from 3, so that there we already have 0. So we'll be having minus s squared then plus 1. Okay, or you can decide to just use this minus 1 here, okay, to multiply or to open up the bracket so that you can see what I did. Okay, so this is what we are going to be integrating. So this is actually x, not 1. So this is what we are going to be integrating with respect to x. So here we have the area to be equals to, then the limits, then that value minus s squared plus x. Okay, so for us to integrate, let's do an integration here. So for us to integrate, we simply add 1 to the power of x here. Okay, that will give us 3. Then we'll now use it to divide the s squared. Okay, so here we'll be having minus x raised to power 3, then divided by 3. Then here we'll be having plus, remember the power of s here is 1, so we'll add 1 to it. That will make the power of s to become 2. Then we'll now divide the s squared by 2. Okay, so you'll be having s squared divided by 2. So let's fix our limit, which is 1 and 0. So this is the upper limit and this is the lower limit. So let's fix it now. So here we are going to be having minus 1 raised to power 3 all over 3, then plus 1 raised to power 2 all over 2, okay, for the upper limit, then minus that of the lower limit, which everything is going to amount to 0, because once we fix 0 here, everything will be amount to 0. So let's just put the 0 there. Okay, so here we are going to be having minus 1 all over 3 plus 1 all over 2, okay, because 1 raised to power 2, or you can say minus 1 raised to power 3 will still give us minus 1. Then 1 raised to power 2 will still leave us with 1. Okay, so here we just take the LCM. So the LCM of 3 and 2 is 6. So 3 into 6, that will give us 2. So 2 times minus 1, we have minus 2 here. Then our plus sign. Then 2 into 3, that will give, 2 into 6, that will give us 3. Then 3 times 1, that will give us 3 here. Okay, so if we subtract the denominator, which is minus 2 plus 1, we are going to be having 1. Okay, then all over the denominator. So if we subtract the numerator, not denominator, if we subtract the numerator, which is minus 2 plus 3, that will give us 1, then all over the denominator, and this will be square or units square. Okay, so let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question. Okay, and that is option D, 1 over 6 units squared. Question 33. Evaluate the integral of sine 2x dx when we are given the upper limit to be equals to pi over 2 and the lower limit to be equals to 0. Okay, so let's move over to the board to provide answer to this. So let us integrate with this limit. Okay, sine 2x dx. So if we should integrate sine, we are going to be having minus 1 over 2 cos 2s. So let's fix our limit, which is pi all over 2, then 0. So we just fix all this. So here we'll be having minus 1 all over 2, then cos 2 times pi all over 2. Okay, then minus, then we'll do the same thing, minus 1 all over 2, then cos 2, then 0. Okay, so let's close these brackets. So of course, remember that these 2, okay, this 2 is going to cancel out this 2. Okay, these 2 will cancel out these 2. Then remember that theta is actually 180 degrees in radian. Okay, so cos 180 degrees, or cos theta, okay, in this case, because we are working in radians, cos pi, sorry, is equals to minus 1, which is cos 180 degrees minus 1. So here we'll be having minus 1 all over 2, then times minus 1, bracket close, then our minus 3 remains here. Then on this other side, we'll be having minus 1 all over 2, then 2 times 0 is still 0, then cos 0 is 1, okay, cos 0 is 1, so here we'll multiply by 1. So here minus with times minus to give us 1 all over 2. Okay, so if 1 times minus 1 over 2, it still remains minus 1 all over 2. So this minus will multiply this minus to give us plus 1 all over 2. Okay, so this is half plus half. Half plus half is definitely equal to 1. Okay, so the answer to this question is 1. So let's return back to the screen to pick the answer to this question, and that is option A, 1. Question 34. The histogram above shows the distribution of monthly incomes of the workers in the company. How many workers earn more than 700 naira? Okay, so in order for us to do that, it's just for us to, okay, I think this part represents, the horizontal line represents the amount which the workers earn, while the vertical line represents the number of workers. Okay, so it's just for us to trace. Here they said more than 700, so more than 700 should start from here, because here this point is 699.5, which is less than 700. So more than 700 starts from 799.5. So in this place we trace it up and we take it horizontally, so that will give us 4. Okay, so we have 4 there, then plus. Now here we trace it up and take it horizontally, that will give us 6, then plus. Here this last point we trace it up and take it horizontally, that will give us 2. So if we add it together, we are going to be having 12. Okay, so we have 12 workers who are earning more than 700. So that makes option B the correct answer to this question. Do you know you can take practice questions with our JAMB simulated CBT past questions? All you need to do is to click on the link in the description below, and that will take you to my school website. There you will need to download my school mobile app for your Android devices and my school software for your laptops and computers. Please go ahead and start practicing. Moving on to question 35. The grades of 36 students in a test are shown in the pie chart above. How many students had excellent? So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So this is the pie chart that is provided for us. Now take note, whenever you see this sign, basically it represents angle 90. Okay, so the sector for very good is equals to angle 90. The angle of sector for the sector of very good is equals to 90 degrees. Okay, so but if we check the excellent part, we don't know the angle, but we can actually calculate for that angle. Okay, because we know that the angles in a circle is equals to 360. right? So we know here to be 90, know here to be 80, know here to be 120. So we can definitely know here by simply adding these three angles together and subtracting it from 360. So let's do that. 360 minus 90 plus 80 plus 120 degrees. Okay, so this will be 360 minus 290. Okay, so all in degrees, and that will be equals to 70 degrees. So the angle of the set of excellence is 70 degrees. So with this, we can actually calculate for the number of students that actually had excellence. Okay, so in order for us to do that, it's just for us to write the angle of excellence, which is 70 degrees, all over the total angle of the circle, which is 360, then times the number of students, which is 36. Okay, so this 0 will kill off this 0, then 36 here is 1, 36 here is 1, so we have 7 left. 7 times 1 is 7, meaning that 7 students actually had excellence. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A, 7. I believe you are enjoying this video content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos. Question 36. The table above shows that the scores of a group of students in a test, if the average score is 3.5, find the value of S. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So this is the table that is given to us. So I'm the one that just draw in this format, okay? But basically, the information and the numbers that are given to us are all the same. So in this question, I'll be giving average. And remember, average in this case implies mean. So remember to calculate for mean, which is S bar, is actually, in this case, is equals to summation Fx all over summation F. Okay, and this is given to us to be equals to 3.5. But remember that 3.5 is also equals to 7 over 2. So basically, this is what we are going to be using in place of 3.5. Okay, so summation S is equals to, so in this case, we'll be having 1 times 1. So 1 times 1 is 1, then plus 2 times 4 is 8, then plus 3 times 5 is 15, then plus 4 times 6 is 24, then plus 5 times x is 5x, then plus 6 times 2 is 12s, all over summation F. Okay, so summation F here represents the number of students. So we are going to add all this together, which is 1 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus x plus 2. So everything here is equals to 7 all over 2. Okay, so if we add the numerators together, we are going to be having 60 plus 5x all over. Then if we add the number of students together, so we are going to be having 18. This plus this is already 10. Then this plus this 7, this plus this 1, then plus s. So here we are going to be having 18 plus s, and this will be equals to 7 all over 2. Now remember, this 7 all over 2 is the same thing as the 3.5 that is given to us in this question. So we cross multiply. So if we cross multiply, we'll be having, of course, 2 with times 60 to give us 120, then plus 2 with times 5s to give us 10x, and this will be equals to, now 7 with times 18 to give us 126, then plus 7 with times s to give us 7s. So here we just collect like 10, since we are calculating for the value of x. Okay, so we move this s, 7s to this side, then we move the 120 to the other side. So here we'll be having 10x minus 7s to be equals to 126 minus 120. So 10x minus 7x, that will be equals to 3s. Then this will be equals to, now 126 minus 120, that will be 6. So since we are looking for s, we simply divide both sides by the coefficient of s, which is 3. So that s is now equals to 6 divided by 3, and that will be equals to 2. So the value of x is equals to 2. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 2. Question 37. the modal height and range of heights 1.35, 1.25, 1.35, 1.40, 1.35, 1.50, 1.35, 1.50, and 1.20 are M and R respectively. Find M plus 2R. Okay, so the modal height simply means the height that will come most, okay, in the range of height that is given. So the height that will come most here is actually 1.53, okay, because we have it 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. So the height that will come most here is 1.53, okay, 1.35, sorry. So the height that will come most here is 1.35, okay, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, so we have 4 of each. So M is equals to 1.35, okay. So the range means the highest value minus the lowest value, okay. So the highest value here is, or the highest height here is 1.50. So our range R will be equals to 1.50, then minus the lowest one. So the smallest value here is 1.20. So here we're having 1.20, and this will be equals to 0.30. Okay, so we are asked to find M plus 2R. So let's just use the value 1.35, then plus 2 bracket 0.30. So 2 times 0.30 is definitely 0.60. So if we add 0.60 to 1.35, we'll be having 1.95. okay, so the value of M plus 2R is equals to 1.95. so that makes option C the correct answer to this question. Question 38. Find the value of t if the standard deviation of 2t, 3t, 4t, 5t, and 6t is √2. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So remember that standard deviation is equals to the square root of variance, right? So we have to calculate for variance. But remember that variance is equals to summation x minus s bar square all over n. So here we need to calculate for s bar, which is mean. Okay, so how many values do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we add them together. 2t plus 3t plus 4t plus 5t plus 6t divided by 5. Okay, so this will be equals to 20t divided by 5. So 5 here 1, 5 here is 4. So that the mean s bar is equals to 4t. So let's quickly draw a table here. Okay, since we have gotten our s bar, okay, to be equals to 40, I think we can clean this off. Okay, so we can clean this off to create more space. So we quickly need to construct a little table to help us to calculate for the variance. So here is our s, which is, we are going to be having 2t here, 3t here, 4t here, 5t here, and 6t here. So here is x minus s bar, while here will be x minus x bar then squared. Okay, so you'll be having 2t minus 4t, and that will give us minus 2t. So minus 2t squared will give us 4t squared. So here 3t minus 4t, that will be equals to minus t. So minus t squared is t squared. Okay, then here 4t minus 4t, that will give us 0. So yes, it remains 0. Then 5t minus 4t, that will give us t. So t squared is t squared. Okay, so we square t to give us t squared. Okay, so 6t minus 4t is equals to 2t. So 2t squared will give us 4t squared. So if we add everything here, which is 4t squared plus 4t squared, that is 8t squared, then plus t squared, that is 9t squared, then plus t squared again, that is 10t squared. So you'll be having 10t squared. So remember, this is the formula for our variance. So if we put these values, we'll be having 10t squared all over 5. Okay, because the number of the data or the t's that are given to us is equals to 5, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5 here is 1, 5 here is 2. So we have the variance to be equals to 2t squared. But remember that we are told that the standard deviation is equals to root 2. So that means we're having root 2, okay? We're having here to be equals to root 2. Sorry, root 2 to be equals to, of course, we said standard deviation equals to the square root of the variance, so which is equals to 2t squared. Okay, so if this is our variance, but remember standard deviation is the square root of the variance, that means you are going to square this 2t squared. So that's why it is squared here. So since we have square root here, we have square root here, so they can cancel out. So that we'll now be having 2t squared is equals to 2. But we are looking for 2, so we just divide both sides by 2. So that t squared is equals to 2 divided by 2, which is equals to 1. Okay, so but remember we are asked to calculate for t and not t squared, but we have t squared to be equals to 1. So we simply take the square root of both sides. So if we take the square root of t squared, we'll have t, and if we take the square root of 1, we'll be having plus and minus 1. Okay, but in this case, I think we only need a positive value of t, which is plus 1. So the value of t is equals to 1. So let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A, 1. Question 39. In how many ways can 6 colored chalks be arranged if 2 are same color? So to simply do this is just for us to calculate for 6 permute 2. Okay, just for us to calculate 6 permute 2. Now remember that the 6 factorial that will be on top. Okay, so this is what I mean. So to calculate for this, we use 6 permute 2. Okay, now the 6 here represent the 6 colored chalks. Okay, while the 2 here is actually the 2 other chalks that are remaining. That is the 2 other chalks that are of the same color. Okay, so we'll be having 6 factorial, then all over 2 factorial. Okay, so this will be equals to 6 factorial will give us 720, then 2 factorial will be equals to 2. So if we divide this will be equals to 360. Okay, 360, not 360 degree. So basically we are not actually using 6 permute 2. Okay, but what this means is that we actually calculated for the number of ways the 6 colored chalks can be arranged, then divided by those 2 chalks that are of the same color. Okay, so not necessarily 6 permute 2. Okay, and that will be equals to 360. So the answer to this question is option D, 360. Question 40. In how many possible ways are sitting 7 people, P, Q, R, S, T, U, and V, at a circular table? Okay, so in order for 6 or for 7 persons to sit in circular table, okay, so we can do that in n-1 factorial ways. Okay, so the 1 here simply means that in order to avoid redundancy, you have to keep one person down as the reference point, then you now arrange the remaining 6 persons around. Okay, so here we know that n is equals to 7, so we'll be having 7 minus 1 in bracket factorial, which is the same thing as 6 factorial. Okay, and 6 factorial means 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Okay, so that will be equals to 720. Okay, so this can be done in 720 ways. So that makes option B the correct answer to this question. Question 41. A bus contains 5 blue balls, 3 red balls, and 2 white balls. 2 balls are selected from the bus with replacement. Find the probability of obtaining 2 blue or 2 red balls. So let's move over to this board to provide answer to this question. So in this question, we are told that with replacement, okay, meaning that after removing the board, then you replace it back again. Okay, so that will not affect, replacing it back now will not bring about any change in the total number of balls, since once it is selected, it is replaced back again. Okay, so here let's provide answer to this question. So first of all, let's calculate for the 2 red balls, right? So for the 2 red balls, the probability of picking 2 red balls will be equals to, so the number of red ball is 3, that will be over 10, then times 3 all over 10. So this will be equals to 9 all over 100. okay? Then the probability of picking blue balls, okay, BB will be equals to 5 over 10, then times 5 over 10, and that will be equals to 25 all over 100. So now we can now calculate for the probability of obtaining 2 blue balls or 2 red balls. So the probability of picking 2 blue balls or 2 red balls will now be equals to 9 over 100. Okay, let's start with the blue balls, which is 25 all over 100, then plus, remember all means plus, then plus 9 all over 100. So here the LCM of the denominator is 100 since they are the same, right? So we just add the numerator in this case, which is 25 plus 9, and that will give us 34. Okay, so here we just reduce. 2 here is going to give us 17, and 2 here is going to give us 50. I think there's nothing again that can divide. So the probability of picking 2 blue balls or 2 red balls is equals to 17 all over 50. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A, 17 over 50. Question 42. What is the probability that an integer x, okay, an s lies between 1 and 20 with 1 and 20 inclusive, okay, chosen at random is divisible by both 2 and 3. Okay, so the value of s will be from 1 to 20, meaning from 1 to 20, and 1 and 20 inclusive, we have 20 numbers. Okay, then choosing between from 1 and 20, the numbers that are divisible by 2 and 3 is 6 is divisible by 2 and 3, 12 is divisible by 2 and 3, and 18 is divisible by 2 and 3. Okay, so the probability of choosing a number divisible by both 2 and 3 in this case should be equals to 3 all over 20. Okay, and that makes option C the correct answer to this question. Now remember that this 20 stands for the value, the total numbers, which is from 1 to 20, and 1 and 20 inclusive, because here we are having 1 is less than or equal to s, and s is less than or equal to 20, meaning that 1 and 20 is inclusive. So if you count from 1 to 20, you are going to be having 20 numbers. But of that 20 numbers, it's only 3 of those numbers that are divisible by both 2 and 3. Okay, and that's why the probability of that integer is equals to 3 over 20. So that makes option C the correct answer to this question. Question 43. In the diagram above, calculate the value of s. So we are going to move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So this is the diagram that is provided for us. So first thing first, let's find the angle that is here. Okay, so if you look at this, this is a straight line and we have 2 angles on it, right? So remember that sum of angles on a straight line is equals to 180. So to get the angle here, let's call it y. So to get the angle here, which is y, we'll be having 180. Okay, we'll be having y to be equals to 180 minus 100. Okay, and that will be equals to 80 degrees, because we said sum of angles on a straight line is equals to 180, meaning that if I add 100 and y, that will be equals to 180. So to get the value of y, we just have to subtract 100 from 180, and that will give us 80 degrees. Okay, so the angle here is 80 degrees. So these two like this are interior angles. So let's say there's an angle here. Okay, so let's call that angle, let's call it z. Okay, so remember the angle here is exterior, that is, it's outside the triangle, while these two inside are interior. Okay, this is 80 degrees, not 8 degrees. Okay, so remember that the exterior angle is equals to the sum of the two opposite interior angles. Okay, so what that means is that this z here is equals to 80 plus 40, and that will be equals to 120 degrees. Okay, meaning that this place is equals to 120 degrees. But remember, in this question we're actually looking for s, so these are just ways, okay, just for us to get the value of s, and that's what we are doing, not that we have been doing. Okay, so if you look at this x and this z, they are corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are equal. okay, corresponding angles are equal, so that our S is equals to 120 degrees. And the reason is because corresponding angles are equal. X and Z are corresponding angles. So since Z is equals to 120, that means S is also equals to 120 because corresponding angles are equal. So S is equals to 120 degrees. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, 120 degrees. Question 44. From the diagram given, the bearing of R from S. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. Now remember that we are looking for the bearing of R from X, okay? So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So basically, what we can do to calculate the bearing of R from S is just for us to cross this place so that we can have a cardinal point, okay? We can have the 4 cardinal points. Okay, so here is our north, here is our east, while this side represents our west, and this represents our south. So we are looking for the bearing of arrow, okay, from X. That means when the question says from S, it means the measurement is going to start from S, okay, and this is the line connecting arrow and S. So we have to measure from north here until we meet the line connecting X and arrow, which is this line. But remember that here, the angle here is 44 degrees, okay? And the angle here also is also equals to 44 degrees. The reason is alternate angles, okay? If you do this, you'll be having like a Z, okay? If you do this from here, move like this, then you go up, so you'll be having a Z. So the angle here is equal to the angle here. So here is also equals to 44 degrees. So remember that from here to here is equal to 90 degrees, and from here to here is another 90 degrees. So if we add them together, that will be equals to 180 degrees. So that 180 degrees, we simply add 44 to it so that we can get the bearing of arrow from X. So here we'll be having 180 plus 44. So if we add 180 to 44, I think that should give us 224 degrees, okay? So the bearing of arrow from S is equals to 224 degrees. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 224 degrees. Do you have any questions to ask? If yes, please click on the link in the description below, and that will take you to my school website. There you can ask all your questions, and our army of solution providers will provide solutions to all your questions within a short period of time. Moving on to question 45. A father decided to give 20% of his monthly income to his 3 children as their monthly allowance. The eldest child got 45% of the allowance, and the youngest got 25%. How much was the father's monthly income if the second child got 3,000 naira? So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So here we say let S be equals to the father's salary, and let Y be equals to the total allowance. Okay, so the total allowance here represents the money that the father actually gave to the children. Okay, but we are told that it is actually 20%, okay, of his monthly salary. Okay, so in that case, Y will be equals to 20% of X. But remember that 20% is the same as 20 over 100, which is 0.2. Okay, so here we'll be using Y is equals to 0.2x. Okay, so remember the first child got 45%, while the youngest, okay, got 25%. So if the youngest got 25% and the eldest got 45%, then the youngest or the middle child or the second child, in this case, will not get, okay, let's write it like the second child will not get 30%, okay, because if I add 45 to 25, that will be equals to 70%, okay? So that 70%, if I subtract it from 100, I'm going to be having 30%. So the second child actually got 30% of the total allowance, okay? The second child got 30% of the total allowance. So in this case, the second child is going to be getting 0.3% of Y. Okay, so 0.3% of y will be equals to 3,000, which is the amount the second child actually received. So from here we can get the value of y. Okay, so we divide both sides by 0.3, so that y is equals to 3,000 divided by 0.3. Okay, so to make this divisible, we multiply the denominator by 10, because once we multiply the denominator by 10, this decimal point will go away, and we also multiply the numerator by 10, so that we'll have an equivalent fraction. So if we multiply 3,000 by 10, in this case we'll be having 13,000, and 0.3 by 10 will be having 3. So 3 here is 1, 3 here is 10, so that at the end of the day we have 10,000. Okay, so that means the value of y is equals to 10,000, which is the total allowance that was actually shared. Okay, so since we know the value of y to be equals to 10,000, but we are actually looking for the father's salary, okay, and the total allowance is equals to 0.2 of the father's salary. So here we'll just equate 10,000, okay, to 0.2x. So since we are looking for s, we simply divide both sides by 0.2, so that s is equals to 10,000, okay, divided by 0.2. So we do the same thing. We multiply the denominator here by 10 to cancel that. We can remove this decimal point, and we also multiply the numerator by 10. Okay, so here we'll be having 100,000 after multiplying by 10, and here we'll be having 2 after multiplying 0.2 by 10. So 2 here is 1, then 2 into 100 is going to give us 50, so that at the end of the day we'll have 50,000 naira. Okay, so the value of s is equals to 50,000 naira, and remember s represents the father's monthly income. Okay, so the value of the father's monthly income is equals to 50,000 naira. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, 50,000 naira. Do you have better solutions or steps to any of these questions? If yes, you can go to the comment section below to comment the question number and the solution you wish to share. Question 46. Divide 6x squared minus 13x plus 5 by 2x minus 1. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this. So this is a simple division or in polynomial. Okay, so here we have our 6x squared minus 13x plus 5, and on this side, which is the divisor, we'll be having 2s minus 1. So we just divide. So 2s divided by 6s squared, that will give us 3x. Okay, then 3x times 2x, that will give us 6s squared. Okay, then 3x times minus s, that will give us minus 3s. So we draw a line and we subtract. So 6s squared minus 6s, that will be 0. So this place is 0. Then minus 13x minus minus, so we change to plus. In that case, we'll be having minus 10x. Okay, so we divide again. So we use this 2x again to divide the minus 10x, and that will give us minus 5. Okay, so we use this minus 5 to multiply 2x, and that will give us minus 10x. Then we use this minus 5 to multiply minus 1, and that will give us plus 5. Okay, so of course we're going to bring this plus 5 down, so we bring our plus 5 down. So we subtract again. So if we subtract again, minus 10x minus minus is going to change to plus, so this will be 0. Then plus 5 minus plus 5, that will give us 0. Okay, so that means 6s squared minus 13s plus 5 divided by 2x minus 1 is equals to 3x minus 5. So let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 3x minus 5. Question 47. So if P is equals to what you have in this bracket, we are asked to find the determinant of matrix P. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So basically, to find the determinant of a given matrix, we have many methods that we can actually use. So let's use the I think probably the most popular method. So what we simply do is that we keep this 1, okay, then we look for the determinant of this 4. Since this 1, okay, does not have any connection to these 4 values. Okay, so here we'll keep 1, then we'll multiply these 2, that will give us 0, then minus, if we multiply these 2, that will give us minus 2, so we'll put it in bracket, then minus, then we'll write out this 3, then we'll look for any other 4 numbers that are not connected, okay, to this 3. So that will be this, okay, and that will be also this. So these numbers are not connected to these 3, either in row or in column. So in this case, we open our bracket again. So 0 is going to multiply 4. That will still give us 0. Then minus 3 is going to multiply minus 1, and that will give us 3. Okay, that will give us plus 3. So you'll be having 3, then in bracket. Then here we'll be having plus, then these 2. Then 4 numbers again that has nothing to do with 2 in rows and in column, which will be, in this case, these 4 numbers. Okay, so we multiply these 2, that will give us 8, then minus 3 times 5, here that will give us minus 15. Okay, so let's try and tidy up this. So minus is going to be plus. Okay, so 0 plus 2 is going to be 2, then 1 times 2 will give us 2 here. Then here 0 minus 3 is going to give us minus 3. Then minus 3 times minus 3, that will give us plus 9. Then here we have our plus. Okay, so here minus and minus is going to give us plus. So 8 plus 15 is going to give us 23. So 23 times 2 is going to give us 46. So here we have 46. Okay, so if we add this, we'll be having 11 plus 46. So 11 plus 46, that will be equals to 57. Okay, so the determinant of matrix P is equals to 57. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 57. Question 48. If U is equals to S such that S is a positive integer less than 10 and P is equals to S such that S is a prime factor of 30, find the complement of P. Okay, so first of all, let's write out the element of U. So the element of U, because they said positive integer less than 10, so that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Since they are less than 10, okay? While P, so are prime factors of 30. So the prime factors of 30 is just 2, 3, and 5. So these are the prime factors of 30. So what they actually mean by prime factors are simply those factors of 30, okay, that each of those factors has just only 2 factors. No, prime numbers are numbers that have only 2 factors. So these are those factors which are numbers that can divide 30 that has only 2 factors. So they are referred to as prime factor. So here we are asked to find the complement of P. Okay, so the complement of P simply means all the elements that can be found in U that are not in P. Okay, so in P we have 2, we have 3, we have 4. So we need every other element that can be found in U, that we can find in U that is not in P. And which is, so P complement is written like this, P prime, and that will be equals to 1, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so these are the elements of P complement or P prime. So the option that agrees with what we just did now is option A, which is 1, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so option A is the correct answer to this question. Question 49. Find the coordinates of the midpoint of the line joining 3, minus 1 in bracket and minus 1, 10 in bracket. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So to find the coordinates of the midpoint of the line joining these 2 lines, these points that are given to us, we simply make use of the formula x1 plus s2 divided by 2, then comma y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Okay, so here S1 is equals to 3, Y1 is equals to minus 4, S2 is equals to minus 1, and Y2 is equals to 10. So we just substitute these values into this formula, so that here we'll be having 3, then plus minus 1 in brackets, okay, divided by 2, comma, while here we'll be having minus 4, then plus 10 in bracket divided by 2, okay. So 3 plus minus 1, that will be equals to 2 all over 2, then comma, minus 4 plus 10, that will be 6 all over 2. So 2 divided by 2, that will be 1, then comma, 6 divided by 2, that will be 3, comma. So the coordinates of the point, or the coordinates of the midpoint, is equals to 1 and 3. So let's move over to the screen to pick the correct option for this question, and that is option A, 1 and 3. Question 50. If M and N are two matrices defined by M with this element and N with this element, we are asked to evaluate 2M minus 3N. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So basically what we have here are referred to as scalar multiplication in matrix. That is when you are using just a single number to multiply the elements or to multiply a matrix. Okay, so first of all, let's look for 2M. Okay, so for 2M, we'll be having 2 multiplied by these elements. So 3, 5, 2, 2, minus 1, and 0. So for multiply, we'll be having 2, that is 2 times 1 is 2, then 2 times 3 is 6, then 2 times 2 is 4, then 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times minus 1 is minus 2, 2 times minus 3 is minus 6, 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 0 is 0. Okay, now let's calculate for 3n. Okay, that will be 3, then bracket 1, 4, 2, minus 2, minus 1, minus 3, 3, 5, minus 1. Okay, and this will be equals to 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times minus 2 is minus 6, 3 times 3 is 9, then 3 times 4 is 12, 3 times minus 1 is minus 3, 3 times 5 is 15, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times minus 3 is minus 9, 3 times minus 1 is minus 3. Okay, so since we are asked to calculate for 2m minus 3n, so in this case we'll be having 2, 8 minus 6, then 6, 10, 4, then 4 minus 2, then 0 on one side, then minus, then everything we have in the second bracket, which represents 3n. So that will be 3, 12, let me increase this bracket, so 3, 12, and 6, then minus 6, minus 3, then minus 9, then 9, 15, and then minus 3. So let's subtract. So the resulting matrix, this is where we are going to have it. Okay, so let's subtract. So 2 minus 3. 2 minus 3, that will be minus 1. So 6 minus 6. Okay, 6 minus 6, that will be 12. Okay, because minus is going to change to plus. So that means we're now having 6 plus 6, that will be 12. So 4 minus 9, that will be minus 5. Then let's move to the second row. Then 8 minus 12, that will be minus 4. Then 10 minus 3, that will be plus 13. That will be 13. Minus is going to change to plus. Then minus 2 minus 15. Minus 2 minus 15, that will be minus 17. Okay, that will be minus 17. Then minus 6 minus 6, that will be minus 12. Then 4 minus 9, that will be 13. Then 0 minus 3, that will be 3. So this is the resulting matrix when we subtract 2m, okay, when we subtract 3m from 2m. So let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer for this question, and that is option C. I believe you enjoyed this video content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.